going to be showing you how to make this lovely bedroom bench or end of bed stool. As usual, the cutting list is in the description box below, so let's get started. So for the legs of the stool, you can either use a spindle, something similar to what I have here, or you could use a piece of strip wood, so either 3x3, which is 1/8 of an inch, or 5x5, which is 13/64 of an inch. And if you're using a piece of strip wood, you want to cut that to 32mm in length, and that's 1¼ inches. If you're using a spindle, we're going to trim some of this straight edge off at the top, and we're just going to use our support as a marker. So we want to be able to fit that 3mm support, or that 1/8 of an inch support, onto the straight bit, so from where it starts, and then you can just make a little measurement above the spindle so that you're leaving 3mm or 1/8 of an inch of straight edge there to attach those supports to. And then what you can do is measure from the top, take that measurement, in my case it's 10mm, and then transfer that onto each of the spindles. I hope I haven't made that sound too complicated. So we're basically just leaving a straight bit at the top of the spindle where we can fit our 3mm support, because that obviously needs to glue onto a straight edge. So take the measurement from your first spindle, and then you can mark each one up accordingly, and then we can saw off this piece here. So let's get the mitre block and saw out, and we'll cut these pieces. So my mitre block is designed to slot over the edge of my desk, but because I can't get the camera in at that angle, I'm just propping it up on that eraser, so that's why it looks a little bit wonky. And then you would just put your spindle in along the straight edge, but you want to make it so that the blade of your saw comes just above your little pencil line. If you just cut into the pencil line, you're going to be taking away some of that 3mm length that we want to keep. So always make sure you go just above the pencil line. Like that. So do each one, and then we'll tidy those up with a little piece of fine grade sandpaper. And then with a piece of 500 grade sandpaper, just tidy that top. So you don't want to sand directly onto the top, because we don't want to take away from the length. So just a gentle sand on top, and then you can sand at each side. And we'll just tidy that up. Do that with each one. So we're going to begin by gluing a short support between each set of legs. And I've dispensed some glue here onto a piece of card, using a cocktail stick to apply it. So dab a little bit onto each end of the short support. And then you want to attach that so you've got a nice flush edge along the top there. So press that into place, and then bring in your other leg and do the same. And then what you can actually do is bring in a spare piece of strip wood. Doesn't matter what size it is, and then just press everything up against it like that, so that you know you've got that nice straight line along the top. And we need that because we're going to be attaching our seat up there. Give that a good press. And you want to push that along your work surface rather than pick it up, or it might just fall apart. And you can just very carefully remove any excess glue that you can see around the joints. I'm just holding onto the legs as I do that, so I don't just push them out of place. Again, just slide that along and leave that to dry. And do the same thing with the remaining set of legs. Whilst the legs are drying, we're going to glue a long support along each edge of the top piece. So apply glue along each long edge. Pop that back down and then attach a long support to each side. Give it a good firm press. On as well. And you can use your spare strip to help press that up against the edge of the top piece. Make sure all the pieces are flat against your work surface, and you can also just make sure that you've got a straight edge along there. And then again push that along rather than trying to pick it up, and you can remove that excess glue. And that piece as well can be left to dry. Once you've allowed enough time for the pieces to dry, take your top piece and then we're just going to sand along each short edge just to make sure that we've got a nice flush edge to attach the legs to. So with your sandpaper flat on your work surface, just sweep it along in the one direction. And you don't want to rock it back and forth like that, or you end up rounding off the corners. So do that at both ends. Begin by applying glue along each short end of your top piece. Put that back down on your work surface, and then you want to attach the flat edge of the leg section to that end. So you've got the edge where you've got the little raised section of the legs, and then the back side of that is flat. So that's the edge you want to press against the end. And it will sit so that that short support there is in the centre, so lined up with the top. And then these long supports are on the inside edge of each of those legs. So press that into place. Make sure all parts are flush against your work surface, or flat against your work surface I should say, and then do the same at the other end. Again here you can bring in those spare pieces of strip wood just to help you push those legs into place. So give it a good firm press. That piece can then be left to dry, and then it will be ready for paint. So the bench has now had 2 coats of paint, and I sanded gently after each coat had dried, and we're now ready to make the seat cushion. Begin by cutting a piece of card that is just slightly smaller on each edge than the top of the bench, from sort of corner to corner of the legs. So you want about 1mm shorter lengthways and depthways, and that will just allow for the thickness of our fabric. Next, apply double-sided tape to one side of the card. We're then going to glue the card to a piece of foam, and I'm using this 6mm or 1/4 inch thick upholstery foam, and it's nice and pliable as you can see, and you usually find that the white foam that you can buy is better for miniatures than the darker coloured foam. And it's better if the foam is slightly bigger than your card as well, and then we can trim it to size once it's glued into place. So apply glue to your piece of card. I'm sticking that so it's along one straight edge like that. Place a piece of kitchen towel on top and then weigh it down until the glue has dried. Once you've allowed enough time for the glue to dry, trim around your card. Next, cut a piece of fabric, leaving a border of about 20mm or 3/4 of an inch all the way around. And then we're going to snip into the fabric from the edge up to the corner of the foam. So we'll just make a snip like that. And then turn it around and do the same at the other end. And then we're going to make a snip the same length, about 6mm or 1/4 of an inch from that first cut. And the same at the other side, so that you're going towards the outer edge of the fabric. So you've got 2 little flaps like that. And we'll do the same at the other end. So again, you've got those 2 little flaps like that, and then we can cut away each corner like that. Now remove the backing from the double-sided tape. And then pull over the first long flap. Don't pull it too tight because you don't want to squash the foam. Turn that around and do the same at the other side. And then bring in your glue and apply it to the end of the foam. And then pull in those flaps and glue them against the foam. I just need to put a little bit on the end of the flap. Glue it down like that. Do the same at the other end. And then apply glue to the remaining flap of fabric. Make sure you get the glue right along the edges. And then pull that over. Press it down and then pinch together the corners. And do the same at the other end. And this is now ready to attach to the bench. So apply glue to the top of the bench. Again, making sure you get it right along the edges and onto the tops of those legs. And bring in your seat and attach it so it's going right into the corners. a good firm press. And there is the completed piece. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll have another one for you soon. Bye!